Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Collapsed Expressway. We still have a bit more of this dungeon to go before we reach Wall Market. Because,
Are there good sales at Wall Market? Is it the absolute lowest prices on the block?
You're placed in a virtual queue. Then after an hour, you're booted out.
there are certainly things on sale there.
Get it? Because Walmart sounds like Wall Market. If you add the ket.
This is the wrong room. Okay.
Just sticking it all out there.
Yeah, this is just about... I also reloaded my save file, which causes the boxes to respawn. So I guess if you want to farm medals, you can find a place with a lot of boxes and save your game there and break the boxes over and over. You know, if you want to...
It seems like this game doesn't need you to grind ever.
Nah, not at all.
Well,
No,
the
not
boxes
at all.
also respawn, like, if you get a certain distance away from them.
It might be faster depending on... How are the load times in this game? Because I assume Lewis
Not
has
too
been
bad.
editing them out. Okay, that's good.
Was this played on a regular PS4 or PS4?
Well, this is on Pro.
Okay.
The load times are fairly long when you first load up the game, but there aren't really many in-game load times that are obvious. The only one that kind of drags for me is the elevator in and out of the Coliseum. That
Oh yeah, that one does.
that goes on too long. But mostly the game is good about being a seamless, cohesive experience.
They just have you duck under some stuff to crawl through or sidle through to match the loading
Yeah.
time.
Is Eris trying to
not
see
played the
there
game.
if Cloud knows who's its face? What's his name? Guy who Cloud thinks he is, but isn't actually. Spoilers.
Zach.
Zach.
Yeah, she's trying to figure out if Cloud knows Zach, right?
She'll just brazenly ask him. In
They
a little
made
bit.
an interesting change to a familiar scene in this version of the game that is...
Which is interesting considering you have to ask whether she's genuinely interested or if she's testing the water.
Ooh, okay.
Because I mean, it's been more than implied that Aerith has some idea of what the ghosty Kingdom Hearts things are.
There's also something that you get only if you happen to get Aerith's maximum affection scene before going to Shinra Tower.
Which do you get, or is it Tifa?
I haven't...
Barrett.
I don't know, but I'm aiming for Tifa.
Can you get all characters max affection, or is it just not possible?
No, just...
No, you only get one scene, so whoever has your most affection gets the scene.
Yeah, there's a scene where either Tifa, Aerith, or
you can
Barrett,
get Barrett.
will be there. And
I wonder what process the game uses in the event of a tiebreaker.
Coin flip, I guess.
It might.
Battle
but
to the
there
death.
Or it's probably designed so where you can't get a tiebreaker.
if I remember correctly, it'll probably do the same thing the original game did, which is if two characters have the same score, there's a priority list.
Yeah, because that's another common thing where it's just like, okay, because that's something that happens in Fire Emblem Awakening, if I remember correctly, where Chrom has to get married by some point, and he has a priority of characters if he has tied affection with any of them. And I think it's like Sumia is top and Olivia is bottom, if I remember.
Yeah, that's
but-
basic programming 101. Condition if this, then that. And then you check them one by one. That's just how computers be.
Yeah, I was just curious because I would wonder what the priority order is.
Probably
Like, does the game-
Aerith, Tifa, Barrett.
Oh, so the game ships Cloud Eris. Interesting. Hmm.
Well, in the original game, Aerith actually started at higher affection than anyone, so you kind of had to work not to end up with her in the date scene.
I guess that makes sense because they want you to care about her when she dies.
And there were also some awkward point distribution points. Like, in order to get points with Tifa, you have to buy the flower, which automatically gets you points with Aerith, too. So, but you could always just manipulate the points if you knew what you were doing by talking to them over and over in one part of the game. And
and grind affection points that
yeah,
way. Okay.
you would either gain points with that character or lose points with the others. I forget which one it was.
So I don't know how I feel about systems like that. For something like this, where it's an affection with a character, I don't mind it as much. But for example, in some of the Shin Megami Tensei games, where you have an alignment system and your alignment is law, neutral, chaos, I kind of prefer it, especially when those games are so much about making a choice and sticking with it. That's kind of the theme of a lot of the games. When there are exploits you can do to basically make your alignment whatever the hell you want it to be, it's a little silly. Like in Strange Journey, you can just keep on digging in a hole for forever, and then this fairy will talk to you and be like, what the hell are you doing? And if you're nice to the fairy, you get law, and if you're a dick to the fairy, you get chaos. That doesn't necessarily mean that the lawful is good or the chaos is evil. For the record, Shin Megami Tensei is weird. Like, law choices in the main game usually mean you're being less of a dick, but when you end up with the law ending, you usually, like, nuke the world and say, hey, the angels run this shit now.
Or you take everyone's free will away or something.
I fought the law and the
Whereas
law
the
won.
chaos answers are often you being a dick, but, I mean, if you choose the chaos path, you're usually, like, setting all the demons loose to
The world's in anarchy and shit, yeah.
yeah. So, but it's interesting because, you know, the dialogue options, where in many RPGs there will be 3 dialogue options. 1 is be a smartass, 2 is be neutral, and 3 is be polite. Being the smartass will give you chaos points, and being nice will usually give you law points. So you'll get law points if you're just trying to be a decent person a lot of the time, even though many fans consider the law branch of Shin Megami Tensei to be more irredeemably evil than the chaos branch. I disagree, but that's just a different tangent altogether.
It kind of depends on which game you're playing. Like,
I mean, all of the games kind of have an anti-law bent. Almost all of the time, they're kind
Yeah,
of depicted as being more of an asshole.
Nocturne is a bit of an outlier in that it's not strictly law, chaos, neutral. You determine your character's reason, and your ending is determined based on that.
Yeah, and there are analogs in the reasons to the different alignments. One thing that I really like about Nocturne, I haven't played it, but I've looked up stuff about it, is that they make one of the neutral pathways, like, a bad ending. Because, like, yeah, usually you assume, oh, if both sides are assholes, then if I pick neutral, then I'm the good guy, right? It's like, no, one of the guy with the neutral reason is just as much of a dick as the other two. So
Not making a choice is a choice.
yeah, so
I mean, there is an arguably good neutral ending where you reset the world back to its normal state, but
That's just kicking the can down the road.
Yeah, which I also like because SMT acknowledges that. They acknowledge that every time you kick the can down the road, you just make another Shin Megami Tensei game later down the timeline. So, you know. John's probably sitting here not understanding what the hell we're talking about. Or maybe he's like knitting or something and not paying attention.
I'm knitting.
Yeah.
Also, my mic's muted because my brother's using the vacuum upstairs.
Yeah. So what are you knitting, John? Is it a hat? Is it my Christmas present? Did you make me a hat?
It's a slime hat that's like the V costumes.
It's a Shin Megami Tensei crochet for you, Ted.
Oh man, you made me a dick demon. Aw, thanks, John. You're the best friend.
Comes in law and chaos varieties.
Yeah.
Chaos variant has 2 dicks.
Well, are there genitalia demons in the law side?
I doubt
I think
it.
they're mostly chaos. There are terrifying robot baby angels, though, on the law side. If we want to go with that.
No, you see, chaos has dicks. Law is just dicks.
Yeah, pretty much. Wait, if all you needed to do was kick that, why didn't we just have Cloud throw his sword on it or something?
How would he get it back?
Gravity, it would bounce down and you pick it up.
Ted,
gravity would just cause it to go down to 1 HP.
Ted, do you know how much wear, tear, and rust that would cause? Come on.
The frickin' indestructible sword that just cut a god in half? Okay.
It's a joke. In Chaos, in Crisis Core, Angeal, the sword's original owner, never wanted to use it because his parents made it for him, and when he was asked about why he never wanted to use it, he would just say, use brings wear, tear, and rust.
Oh, so it's like the china that your parents have but never use.
You only use like once a year, yeah.
Yeah, it's like, okay, we have all of these nice plates, and it's like, cool, are you going to use these nice plates? No.
You'll use them too much.
Just for decor. I might be the minority on this one. I'm kind of glad they ditched the Crisis Core Buster Blade design because I was not a fan of the golden ornament on the hilt.
It makes it, I guess it makes it look flashier, but I guess kind of the appeal is that it's more rustic kind of looking. Well, rustic's
Well,
not the-
I mean, in my head canon, like maybe the handle originally looked like that, but it got
Just
worn
using it so
down
much.
and replaced eventually. That's one thing that could have
I
happened.
kind of like the industrial look.
I would agree if they didn't have it. No, because they would eventually like you just use that design for like. My only frame of reference is the ending of Crisis Core, which is just the beginning of 7.
Yeah,
As a way of like bridging the two games, and Cloud is using the sword and it has the golden ornament on it.
yeah, but you know, they just might not. They just might not have thought of it at the time. But it's a plausible in-universe explanation for why it looks different between games.
I just don't understand why they would needed to like just update it in the first place. 'Cause literally, I don't think they did anything else with any other weapon.
because
in
the
game.
original Buster Sword was a really simple design. So
Meant to look good and really low. Poly
yeah,
3D.
they
Yeah.
added a lot to it in Advent Children and Crisis Core. And
I think part of what they wanted to do as well is, especially at that time, having details on stuff was really impressive. Like, look at the denim on Mario's pants. Oh, yeah. So it's just like, look at all this fancy gold shit we put on to the Buster Sword. It doesn't need to be there, but it is there because look
Yeah.
how powerful the PSP is. You know, whereas nowadays you can make it look good without having it to have, like, the flashy gold ornaments make it stand out that there's details on there, but now we have powerful enough things where you can have like a very detailed handle wrap that looks like the concept art for Final Fantasy VII, but doesn't have like fancy gold ornamenting and shit because
Yeah.
we can do
we can do
that
smaller,
fine
more
detail.
subtle details now, and it's great.
Yeah. I'd really like to know how they do it. I assume it's probably some really fancy texture alpha.
There's a
tunnel
Twitter
shit.
user who has pinned currently on his or her Twitter feed this post that's just like Final Fantasy fans, why is Final Fantasy VII Remake taking so long? Nomura, do you want to see Cloud's blood vessels and individual eyelashes or not?
I mean,
No,
Not really. No.
if the game comes out 2 years sooner, then nah, you're good, fam.
And the images attached to it are just close-ups of those details.
I mean, that always has been Final Fantasy's, like, defining characteristic, though, hasn't it? Is that they're almost always really graphically advanced for the time.
Oh yeah, even Final Fantasy 1 kind of was.
Yeah.
It's sort of. It varied on game to game until we got to the PlayStation era.
I
Yeah.
mean, Final Fantasy...
no, I would argue 6. 6 was really fucking good.
Yeah, I would say that there's-
Let's be
16-bit
real
game.
here. 4/2 on Super Nintendo was a glorified NES game.
Yes, it
yeah,
was.
it doesn't
Yeah,
really
kind
look
of.
that much better than, like, the Dragon Quest V or the 1 and 2 remakes, which also don't look great on NES. So, like, it basically just was.
The only thing really 16-bit about 4 was the Mode 7 scrolling and the soundtrack.
Yeah.
I mean, the soundtrack definitely used all of the stuff that the SNES could do.
Yes,
But
it did.
I figure, Final Fantasy V, I think, does a good job looking really good on that system.
Oh yes.
6,
5 is a good in between.
Yeah.
4 and 6, but it's not 6.
yeah, I'm not a huge, like, I think we've talked about this earlier. I don't really care for the way that the sprites are drawn in the 2-bit Final Fantasies.
2-bit.
2D Final Fantasies, sorry. Because
Final Fantasy on the Atari.
2-bit is just black and white.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's true, yes. But yeah, I'm not a huge, like, the art style isn't really my jam for the 2D Final Fantasies with the way the monsters are drawn, but they are very detailed and they do look really good. This is kind of the thing where people talk about, oh, why did nobody like Earthbound when it came out? And people are like, oh, if you make fun of Earthbound's graphics, you just don't get it. And I mean, you can like the art style, but for the time, that game did not even try to use the SNES.
and
Look at how slow Cloud is being.
It takes so long.
It's just like
just slightly on the Earthbound thing. It's also that the battle system is just a bunch of static images just standing there, and there's like filters placed over the battle, and nothing like moves.
I also like to think there are 2 different timelines.
I mean, that's not
Where-
that different from, like, Dragon Quest. My problem with Earthbound's battle system is that it's
I'm just
not
talking
as
the visual.
interesting.
We were just talking about the visual design as a
Well,
thing.
the monsters I don't mind so much in Earthbound because the monster sprites in Earthbound are fine. It's the overworld that bothers me because nothing has any texture or detail to it. There's so much flat color in Earthbound.
I won't say no. Texture's not the right word. I would say depth. There's no depth.
Yeah, because there's everything's like a flat color. Like maybe you'll have a couple of pixels that resemble grass, or and it's just I feel like the Earthbound art style would work way better if it was in 3D. Where you can have a chibi bobblehead look and it would work a lot better. Or if you could do the claymation even better, but like you could have made those games on 3DS and I think they would have they would have gotten what the art style was aiming for more than the games.
I really want to say like I really like this scene in particular because in this happened in the original game where Aerith basically coerces Cloud into sitting on top of the giant mascot
slide
park thing with her. But this version of the scene not only like makes a brief reference to Crisis Core, where you help Aerith build herself a flower selling cart in this very same park, but Aerith breaks script here and actually answers Cloud's question from the original game. He asks,
and he's not supposed to know who Zack is.
Yeah, he asks in the original game. He asks what his name was, and says, "I probably knew him." And Aerith just shakes her head and brushes the question off. But here she says the answer to that, and Cloud has his second fuzz out moment, just like he did earlier when one of the Shinra grunts said, "I know that sword."
Ryan, go back to what you said earlier. It's where you said he's not supposed to know his name yet. No, he knows who Zack is. It's just that's a repressed memory.
No, he's not supposed to know who Zack is.
He's not supposed to consciously know it. And this is all a build up to one other moment later on where a certain other character attempts to tell Cloud the truth and gets like just literally carried away by the whispers.
Demented away.
The Kingdom Hearts ghosts were like, nope, you're skipping 20 hours of game here.
We can't have that happening now.
You just see an NPC walk up to Eris. Eris, you're not dead yet, and then you just see them get.
And it really.
I just imagine like two Dementors go like behind the stage, like holding like he's going off script again. He's going off script again.
I imagine them like taking a baseball bat and whacking them, and then they get the Team Rocket sparkle in the sky because they're launched into orbit.
Like it really makes you wonder though. Now that the whispers are out of the question at the end of this part, how is this going to be revealed to Cloud in this timeline?
I mean, but that's just one of many topics that are brought up in terms of where the game's going after this.
That plot twist could happen at a completely different point in the story now, and we'll never know when it's going to happen or where. But if we've played the original game, we know it's coming. We just don't know when.
I mean, it's clear that they're not changing any of the backstory for this game. Like, everything still happened up to this point. I think that one thing that I'm interested in is how they're going to do the flashback scene where you like control Cloud in the past with Sephiroth.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
if
the
that
Nibelheim
means you
thing.
can play as Sephiroth, and if so, can you then mod Sephiroth into this game and play as him, which would be really funny.
Actually, yeah, they might let you play as Sephiroth for that point. That would be interesting.
It just turns into Smash Brothers.
The conf aspect though is gonna be so weird though. If they go with it for the remake, it's gonna be so weird in the context of the remake.
What would make it more weird than it?
Because we actually fought fucking Sephiroth at the end of this game. Like, just to jump way ahead here. Like, he's already a fucking an established threat that we physically had in contact with. I know I need more time to stew what I'm trying to get at here.
Well, that's part of why I didn't like them making Sephiroth a villain in this part of the game to begin with, because there's still this thought, like, if you don't know anything about Final Fantasy VII at all, you can go through the first 15 or so hours of the game and not think that Sephiroth is irredeemable or is a villain. well, no, you know he's a villain, but you're like, what happened to this guy? I want to know. Could we get him to be on our side? Because at that point, Sephiroth is just kind of a ex-Shinra soldier who is killing people, but he's like killing the people you don't like. So
Yeah, it's killing the people we want to be stopped anyway. So
Well,
Yes.
yeah, but at the same time, Cloud straight up says, "No, this guy's worse than Shinra." And then you go on through the game, and you never find the answers to any of those questions you just asked. So,
yeah,
mixed
I mean, it's
execution.
just-
I mean, we'll see it towards the end of the game, but I get the suspicion that the Sephiroth we're seeing in this game, against spoiler alerts for endgame stuff of this
Right.
remake, is this Sephiroth here is original timeline Sephiroth.
Yes.
It's the vibe I get. So
But okay, stepping away from Sephiroth though, I really like that exchange there, where Cloud straight up chases Tifa down and jumps onto the back of the wagon, but she convinces him to just let her handle it. But then Aerith convinces him, "No, that's a bad idea. That's stupid. Let's go."
the plot needs to progress as
Doesn't know what she's talking
normal.
about.
Well, yeah, but it's also interesting from a character standpoint because it shows that not only does Aerith think that she knows things in this particular area of the slums better than these two characters do, and she's probably right, but she's also really concerned about Tifa independent of Cloud's connection to her.
Even though the two technically haven't met yet.
But that's another interesting detail. Did Cloud ever tell Aerith what Tifa was up to? Did she couldn't have overheard their conversation.
No. Also, I love this guy. It sounds like he wants to open a can of brewskis after the end of the day and sell me a Ford pickup.
So, my question is, did Aerith just intuit all of that from context, or was it her letting some of her possible foreknowledge slip?
I think it's the latter, honestly.
It might be the latter. Yeah.
So, yeah, it's interesting, that little scene. It's a detail you might not even catch if you're not paying attention for it. Also, affection point questions.
Yeah.
Also, the questions and answers and the actions you take during the section will determine which quest line that you take during the wall market sequence. You'll either take requests from this guy, Chocobo Sam, or from the madam over at the hand massage parlor. Chocobo Sam here isn't actually a new character, though, I don't think. I think he appeared in the Gold Saucer in the original game.
I believe so.
Like, he was a
Chocobo
Racer.
Sam specifically?
I think he was a Chocobo Racer,
Because
though, yeah.
The only Chocobo racer I can think of is Joe.
Joe? Is that his name? Joe?
Joe is the one that rode the black Chocobo.
Oh, okay. Then I'm getting
Yeah.
these two mixed up because they have equally boring names. Okay.
Because the only other Chocobo-centric character I can think of is the one that ran the ranch.
Right. Okay, so this is a new character. I'm getting
I think
things
Sam
all
is new.
mixed up in my head. I thought they were doing something clever by introducing a later character earlier, but no. But speaking of new characters, Wall Market has like three goddamn new characters, and all of them four actually, because I forgot Leslie.
Leslie is a giant setup for later. And
Yeah, Leslie is a giant setup and also a bit of a prank on the player because we're conditioned to think silver hair means Sephiroth clone. He's not a Sephiroth clone. He just looks like he might be. So the game is sort of toying with your expectations a little.
No, to me, he always looked like he walked out of a different Final Fantasy.
he looks like he walked out of 15.
Yeah.
Well, he looks like he could be an Advent Children character, but he's not.
Well, that
He's
too,
actually
yeah.
like completely unconnected to the whole Sephiroth.
yeah, he
mess.
would totally come from Edge.
Yeah, so he's totally unconnected to that. And I actually like Leslie's side story in this. Gives Don Corneo a bit more to do as well.
It does make Don Corneo a more despicable guy.
Yeah.
I mean, that second foray through the sewers is something I could have done without, but
Yeah, I would agree with that too.
but
yes.
you know, the story surrounding it was pretty good stuff.
Oh, do you check the room from the original game where it tries to shoot you?
Oh yeah, a little bit later.
Oh yeah, my favorite. The,
I love how they kept that room.
the item store that's open 24 hours that's closed.
Wait, what?
you know the original in the room where it was like the item game, and if you tried it would like drop down a turret and shoot at you.
I played the game 5 years ago, so I don't really remember.
Yeah, it was a module that you tried to if you tried to access early and like in your first visit, a security system would interrupt you. It's a Gatling
Yeah,
gun.
the thing is, when you regain access to Midgar during Disc 3, which is something I'm not sure how you were supposed to figure out how to do without a guide in the original game, because it involves going to the mines at the Bone Village and fishing up a key that happens to belong to the gates of Midgar, which is on the other side of the fucking planet. So how did this key get here? But yeah, once you have that key, you can re-enter the slums at the end of the game. You go back to that vending machine and you can get, I think it was Tifa's ultimate weapon.
Yeah, premium art.
And but if you try to access the vending machine before that point, or at any time after picking up the weapon, it will just shoot at you with a Gatling gun from the ceiling. And it's one of the most random what the fuck moments in the entire original game, and it's never explained.
Sorry, is this your boxing glove?
And in this game, it's still not explained. There's just a guy standing outside who you can talk to afterwards, and he's like, "What? It's broken? Huh?" And that's all.
Why is this 12-year-old in?
Oh, thank God I missed.
Why is this 12-year-old in the red light district?
I don't know. I think everyone on the street might be internally asking themselves the same question, but, you know, it's Walmart. Everyone minds their own goddamn business.
He's like, hey, does this kid belong to someone? Or...
So...
where is this sassy lost child from?
Anime, don't question it. Anyway... The refocus materia. You're going to want to use refocus at least twice, because that's one of the Chadley challenges. Activate refocus twice. I actually wound up activating it once off screen during redos for one of the Coliseum, or no, one of the summon boss fights, rather. I had to do it a couple times, and I wound up cutting out one of the attempts in which I used refocus, and it counted. So
yeah, it's fine.
Yeah,
Chatterley's Ignis impression needs work.
I figured I'd mention that. But what refocus materia does is it essentially gives you an extra usage of your limit break gauge. It doesn't use your entire limit break gauge when you use it either. It uses like half. But you have to fill up your limit gauge to full in order to activate it. What refocus?
Oh wait, you did it. Wait, hold on, wait a minute. Make up your mind. Is it gauge or gauge?
Whatever.
Oh, we already had this argument. Can we not?
Meter then. Okay? Meter. You have to fill up your meter to full, and then you can activate. You can.
Speaking of something being full,
and then you can activate refocus. And what refocus does?
Chocobo.
What refocus does is it gives your character an extra ATB segment. So not only does your character have 3 ATB segments to build up all at once, but the ATB bar is the same length it always was, so the 3 segments fill up faster. Refocus is extremely useful for longer battles, as long as the character who uses it doesn't die after activating it. So
This poor guy's just trying to take a nap, and you're stabbing him for no
In
reason.
a Coliseum, Ted. That was his first mistake.
all right,
Like,
so
look at that poor asshole. Like,
also this is the first time you can run into a lot of different enemies.
yeah, Fat Chocobo summons a lot of random monsters, including, of all goddamn things, tonberries. Fuck those things.
oh, are those in? Those are in this game.
Yes.
Yeah, there's even a
Yes.
side quest involving one.
Don't they not appear until later? in
Yeah,
Final Fantasy VII?
come to
Yeah.
think of it, the same is true of bombs, for that
Wait,
matter.
did they model the Fat Chocobo's asshole?
I
I
don't.
I think I saw them do it, and it makes me very uncomfortable.
I think that's just a place where the feathers separate from.
Yeah, because we definitely would have seen it by now.
It's just feather texture.
Just saying.
Okay.
Also, this is the fight you want to use for the 200% and 300% stagger achievement stuff.
Yeah.
Why? Because he just
Yeah, because
sits
he's
there
down for a
and-
while.
Yeah.
The poor
'Cause
thing,
he's so fat.
though. I just want to give it a hug and tell it I'm sorry.
Well, you'll be singing a different tune when it hits pinch mode and starts using its really bad stuff on you.
Yeah,
Oh, there's a
Tonberry,
Tonberry.
by the way.
Wait, so you hit it and it's okay. I love that animation though. He just doesn't move and it just like flips in the air like you're hitting a balloon or something.
Tonberries are definitely one of the more memorable Final Fantasy enemies.
Well, one of the reasons why I like them is they use the ATB in an interesting way, and they also use that the way that the Final Fantasy screen layout is used, interestingly, because they actually physically move closer to you, which is really ominous, and you have to actually act quick in order to beat them, otherwise you freaking get murdered. So
Yeah.
Doinked.
One of the like the legitimately coolest things in Final Fantasy VIII, while simultaneously being the most annoying, is the way that game uses tonberries. Okay, so there's this ruined dungeon, complete side area. No idea why it's there because the story of the place is never explained. You just go there and there's randomly a time limit. You go to the end of it and you fight Odin, and you beat Odin, and Odin becomes a summon who randomly appears at the start of battle. Go back in, and just inexplicably, the place is infested with random encounters with tonberries. And you run around for like 6 goddamn hours fighting them over and over, and if you fight and kill enough of them, the Tonberry King comes for revenge. And if you beat him, you get him as a summon too.
do tonberries give like extra money or gold or anything like gold is money? Extra money or XP or anything when you kill them in Final Fantasy, or are they just a hard enemy?
They're usually just a hard enemy. They'll sometimes have good steals, but
There are some instances in other Final Fantasies where they have really good awards. The only one I can immediately think of is the Master Tonberry in 7, the original 7, because you can morph them into ribbons.
Okay. Because from what I can remember, there are very few Metal Slime equivalent enemies in Final Fantasy, where they give you like 1,000,000 XP or money if you manage.
I mean, Grand Dragons.
Tonberries in
That's
6
just
had.
because you're not supposed to fight them.
If you were a big Strago user, Tonberries had Step Mine, which was a magic spell that did damage according to how many steps you took.
Oh,
Yeah, but that would
was-
require using Blue Mage with Strago, and why bother with that when you can just equip normal materia to him?
Old man funny.
Old man. Okay, that's fair.
Step Mine. Step Mine. Kind of makes it sound like the mine was the son/daughter of your adoptive parents.
Yeah.
Okay. There are all sorts of jokes that can be written about that name, but I'm not going to get into it right now.
Yeah. Tonberries are always like, they put a smile on my face if I see them in a Final Fantasy, regardless of how.
Don't you have the Tonberry lamp?
I have a Tonberry lamp, yeah. That's the 14 design one.
Yeah, the one where the lamp is the actual light.
Is the
Yeah.
Tonberry the ending boss of a raid in Final Fantasy XIV?
The Tonberry King is the last boss of the Wanderer's Palace. And you later revisit that dungeon again in a hard mode variant where, to quickly wrap this up, the Tonberries in the context of 14 are actually old scholars that have been warped because of like dark powers and all that sort of thing. So not all of them are bad. And in the second visit to the dungeon, they start getting ransacked by like mercenaries and bounty hunters, and you have to rescue them. And the final boss of that area, you defeat them, but instead of getting the traditional victory screen, it gets interrupted by the Tonberries you rescued, and they just fucking swarm the boss and stab him to death, while your character looks on in horror.
Oh god,
That's perfect. Oh man.
that's dark.
Final
actually.
Fantasy XIV is the best.
Because I imagine that Tonberries are the kind of assholes that purposefully dull their knives so that when they stab you with them, it hurts more. Because that's how that works.
And that means they have more time they have more opportunity to stab you until you die.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, I need to stab you 64 times instead of 62 in order to kill you. Oh, well.
Unlucky me.
Well, I have another hour.
Oh, look, my schedule just opened up.
Yeah. I love Tonberries, though. Like, regardless of the context of the Final Fantasy. That's a big fucking sandwich. I just noticed that
We
sandwich.
now have the
That
Fat
stand there.
Chocobo Summon, and here's the thing. Even if you don't really intend to use the summons much, each summon materia has different stat boosts for the characters who equip them, so you do want to think about that. You do want to have every character have a summon equipped, if they can. Because
Are the stat boosts permanent? Like, you get
No,
more when you
it's
level
just-
up?
it-
Or
no.
no,
It's just while
they
you-
they're just treated like equipment rather than the way
Oh,
they.
okay. So
Yeah.
it's not like
Yeah.
you need to have them equipped in order to get the best stats per level up. It's just when you put them on, you get plus 20 defense or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.